Have you ever found yourself, standing right at the edge of a big change? Maybe it's a new job or learning a new skill or even just uh, committing to a healthier way of life,
Hmm.
only to feel that first big burst of enthusiasm just sort of slowly, maybe even painfully fizzle out. It's a feeling I definitely know.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly relatable.
We set these grand ambitions, don't we?
Yeah.
Maybe like Emily in the Sources, aiming to master 4 new languages in just 1 year.
Wow, that's ambitious.
Or promising herself she'd read 30 books or, finally pick up drawing. And then, well, as the months go by, we often find ourselves feeling a bit deflated, realizing we've barely made a dent.
Yeah.
The intention was there, the desire was absolutely real, but the follow-through just, it evaporated.
It really is a remarkably common human experience, isn't it? That initial powerful surge of ambition, that vision for who we want to be, what we want to achieve.
Right.
And then it's often followed by this gradual, pretty disheartening loss of momentum. It brings up a truly fundamental question, one that really cuts across so many parts of our lives. Personal growth, professional innovation.
Exactly. And that's really the core question we're diving into today. Why is it so incredibly hard for us as adults to fundamentally change ourselves, to stick to those big goals, to push past the obstacles? And maybe even more importantly, how can we possibly get back that natural energy, that almost limitless determination, that boundless curiosity we all had as kids?
It's fascinating when you think about it.
Just think about it for a second. Kids just go, they try, they fall, they get up, and they try again, seemingly without that crushing weight of self-doubt that so often plagues us adults.
Our mission in this deep dive, then, is to unpack exactly that paradox. We're going to explore this fascinating idea of childlike wonder and resilience. Not just what they are, but, why adults tend to lose these vital qualities as they navigate through life's complexity.
Right, the why.
We'll dig into the science, the psychology, even some spiritual perspectives behind this big shift. And then we'll talk about why getting these qualities back isn't just, like, a nice to have.
Yeah.
But absolutely crucial for our overall well-being, our mental health, and, frankly, our ability to succeed and innovate in this modern, always changing world.
And of course, we won't just leave you hanging with the problem. We're going to give you a comprehensive guide, packed with practical, actionable strategies
How to?
and compelling real-world examples to help you rediscover your own inner explorer, your inner scientist, your inner artist, whatever it might be. So yeah, get ready to really dive deep into what makes us tick, how we might have lost some of that vital spark, and crucially, how we can work on getting it back. Okay, so let's unpack this idea first. Childlike wonder and resilience. When we talk about these qualities, what exactly are we defining? Because it feels like it's more than just, being innocent or naive, right?
Oh, definitely.
It feels like it's about a really fundamental way of approaching life itself.
You've hit on a really key point there. At its core, childlike wonder isn't about being childish. Not at all. It's about an inherent curiosity, a deep openness to new experiences, and this incredible, almost effortless ability to learn.
Okay.
And resilience in this context, that's that amazing ability to just bounce back, to adapt, to keep going with this unwavering determination, even when things go wrong.
Right.
What's truly fascinating, though, is how these qualities aren't just like behavioral traits you pick up. They're deeply embedded in children's biology, their developing psychology. They are, in a very real sense, our natural state.
Our default setting, almost. That makes perfect sense. So let's talk about those core characteristics we see so clearly in kids. What's actually happening in their brains that allows for all this?
Well, one of the biggest factors is something called neurological plasticity.
Ah, brain flexibility.
Exactly. It means children's brains are incredibly malleable, highly adaptable. They're constantly forming new connections, pruning old ones, all based on their experiences.
Yeah.
Unlike adults, children haven't yet developed those rigid, deeply ingrained thought patterns, especially around abstract ideas like failure.
Right, failure is a concept we learn.
Precisely. When a child falls while learning to walk, and trust me, they fall a lot, they cry, yes, but mostly because of the physical pain, the surprise of hitting the ground.
Sure.
Their limbic system, that emotional core of the brain, it doesn't immediately link that specific physical setback to their identity or their self-worth.
Interesting.
They don't internalize it as, oh no, I am a failure at walking. Instead, their thought process is much simpler, much more direct. It's like a rapid feedback loop. Okay, that hurt. New information received. Now I'll adjust my balance slightly and try again.
Just data.
Exactly. This inherent adaptability, this fundamental lack of self-judgment tied to an outcome, is absolutely key to their remarkable resilience. For them, a fall isn't a failure. It's just data and input for the next attempt.
That's a really powerful distinction. It's like their brain is constantly running updates, not getting stuck on permanent error messages that define who they are.
That's a great way to put it.
And you also mentioned dopamine, that neurochemical link to pleasure. How does that fit in?
Oh, it's a huge factor. Children are naturally wired for curiosity, and curiosity is an incredibly powerful activator of dopamine.
Right, the reward chemical.
Exactly. Dopamine is that fundamental neurochemical linked to pleasure, reward, motivation, achievement. This natural wiring lets them easily find joy and motivation in even the smallest discoveries or accomplishments. Think about a child just playing in a sandbox. They're completely absorbed, driven by the sheer joy of exploring, the anticipation of what they might find next.
Yeah, totally focused.
Even minor physical discomfort or a small bump doesn't immediately become some major trauma because their brain's reward system is constantly engaged, constantly active. They're driven by intrinsic motivation, the pure delight of learning and mastering something new. That keeps the dopamine flowing, making them incredibly motivated and resilient to minor discomforts.
So that constant engagement with curiosity plus the natural reward system, that naturally leads to what we see as just remarkable persistence, right? Like watching a toddler learn to walk, just keep getting back up.
Precisely. Children exhibit truly remarkable persistence. They will fall many, many times, sometimes 20 times or more in just one session while learning to walk.
Wow.
But in their own minds, they aren't failing. Instead, they're building what psychologists call error tolerance.
Error tolerance, I like that.
Yeah. They might cry for a moment, maybe need a quick cuddle, but they quickly get up and return to the task with renewed enthusiasm. It's driven by this innate desire to learn, to master their environment. Every fall is just another data point, another piece of info to adjust their balance or technique. It's not a reason to quit. This relentless drive, this positive feedback from small discoveries, it's truly astonishing to watch.
And it's not just persistence, is it? There's also this really strong belief they seem to have in themselves.
Indeed. Children typically possess a very strong, almost unshakable belief in their ability to succeed. Albert Bandura famously called this self-efficacy.
Right, self-efficacy.
This inherent confidence is a crucial component of their resilience and their willingness to try new things, even things that look pretty daunting. They haven't yet accumulated the baggage of past failures in the same way adults often have. This lets them approach new challenges with an almost default setting of, yeah, I can do this, or I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They just assume competence until proven otherwise, and even then they don't give up easily.
And they seem perfectly okay with things not being perfect or even clear. They actually seem to thrive in ambiguity sometimes.
This is a quality many adults really struggle with deeply.
Yeah.
Unlike many of us who crave definitive answers, predictable outcomes, clear paths.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah. Children often thrive in uncertain or ambiguous situations. Their natural curiosity makes the process of exploration far more important than achieving an immediate perfect result.
Right, the journey.
Exactly. They can spend ages with just a simple object, discovering all its facets and uses. Think about how they enjoy the dynamic imbalance of a seesaw, for example. They embrace change and unpredictability as part of the fun part of the adventure.
Yeah.
For them, the journey of discovery itself, the act of engagement, is the reward, not just arriving at some fixed destination. They really embody the idea that the answer often lies in the exploration, not just the arrival.
So, okay, if children are naturally equipped with all these amazing qualities, this incredible brain plasticity, the dopamine-driven curiosity, relentless persistence, high self-efficacy, comfort with ambiguity, why then, the big paradox, why do we, as adults, tend to lose them? What happens? What shifts in our development in our world that causes this amazing spark to, well, dim?
This is truly where the adult paradox comes into play.
Wow.
As we grow older, many, though not all adults, adopt what the psychologist Carol Dweck famously theorized as a fixed mindset.
Ah, yes. Fixed versus growth mindset.
Exactly. We start to believe our abilities, our intelligence, our talents are essentially static, unchangeable, set in stone. This belief leads inevitably to a profound fear of failure. Because if our abilities are fixed, then failure doesn't just mean we messed up. It indicates a fundamental inherent flaw in us. Yeah. Rather than just seeing it as a momentary misstep or a chance to learn, this dramatically diminishes our natural resilience. It stands in sharp contrast to a child's inherent growth mindset, where every challenge is seen as an opportunity to improve, to learn, to evolve.
And it really seems like we start tying those setbacks directly to our identity. Like Bram, the business practitioner from one of our sources, mentioned, right? A business failure can lead to thinking, I am stupid, instead of just objectively assessing it as, okay, that was a bad strategy.
That's a crucial and often incredibly debilitating shift. Adults frequently internalize setbacks, making them deeply personal. A business failure, for instance, might not be objectively assessed as, an ineffective strategy or a market misjudgment or maybe just bad timing.
Right.
Instead, it becomes internalized as proof of personal inadequacy, a direct blow to one's self-worth. This entanglement of failure with self-worth creates immense and frankly unnecessary stress, anxiety, and shame.
No.
And it makes recovery so much harder.
Yeah, you get stuck.
We essentially become our failures in our own minds, rather than seeing them as isolated events or just crucial data points for future success. This heavy emotional baggage weighs us down, prevents us from bouncing back quickly, if at all.
And the language we hear around us and the language we start using ourselves, plus all the conditioning we get from society, that certainly doesn't help, does it? It often seems to reinforce this fear.
Not at all. It can actively work against us. The language we're exposed to and the language we internalize as adults often reinforces fear, negativity, judgment. Instead of that encouraging, get up and try again, you'll get it next time, that we naturally offer kids,
Right.
we might encounter phrases like, why are you so incompetent? Or even just the implied pressure of, don't fail again. This kind of language can deeply plant seeds of fear and self-doubt, leading to a profound aversion to taking risks. Plus, societal expectations shift dramatically as we age. Children learn through constant experimentation, trial and error is expected.
Yeah, it's how they learn.
But adult environments work. Sometimes even higher education often demand perfection on the first try, or at least a very high degree of competence right out of the gate. This stifles that crucial trial and error process that is so vital for genuine learning, creativity, and growth. It pushes us onto safe, predictable, and often quite stagnant paths.
It's like we're subtly or not so subtly taught to just play it safe, to avoid any misstep at all costs. Which brings us to something called loss aversion. What's that about?
Exactly, it fits right in. Psychologically, humans are often more motivated by the fear of losing something they already possess, could be money, status, comfort, reputation, than by the potential excitement or gain of something new, even if the potential gain is equal to or greater than the potential loss.
Interesting. Fear is a stronger motivator than gain.
Often, yes. This powerful phenomenon, known as loss aversion, can effectively trap adults in what feel like safe zones, making them incredibly hesitant to take risks, try innovative approaches, or step outside their comfort zone. The immediate tangible fear of losing what's known, even if it's limiting or unsatisfying, often outweighs the potential, less certain rewards of exploring the unknown.
That explains a lot.
It's why people often stick with a mediocre job rather than risking a new venture, or stay in unfulfilling relationships. The pain of a potential loss is simply felt more intensely than the pleasure of an equivalent potential gain.
And okay, in our incredibly modern, digitally saturated world, we're just constantly bombarded with information, especially through our screens. Does that contribute to this loss of childlike wonder and resilience too?
Massively.
Yeah.
And in really profound ways that we're only just beginning to fully grasp. Our brains, remember, evolved over millennia in much simpler, less stimulating environments. They are simply not built to process the overwhelming quantities of information, the sheer number of faces, the constant stream of emotional stimuli we encounter daily through smartphones and continuous digital media.
It's exhausting.
It is. This relentless overload can lead to emotional exhaustion, reduced cognitive capacity, a general feeling of being overwhelmed, and a significant diminishing of our natural curiosity, our playfulness, even our capacity for deep, focused thought. Continuous digital engagement can actually strengthen what neuroscientists call detrimental neural pathways in the brain.
Detrimental pathways? How does that work?
Well, think of it this way. Our brains thrive on focused, deep work. But constant notifications, the fragmented nature of scrolling through feeds, it trains our brains to be easily distracted. This literally strengthens neural pathways for attentional impulsivity, that urge to check your phone every few minutes.
Oh yeah, I know that urge.
Right. While it weakens those crucial executive functions, things like planning, impulse control, complex problem solving, and regulating our emotions.
So we're training ourselves to be distracted.
In a way, yes. It's like constantly flexing your distraction muscle while letting your focus muscle atrophy. This makes it harder to disengage, it hinders our creative, intellectual, and cognitive autonomy, and it can lead to a state of chronic low-level stress. In fact, studies have shown significant benefits from digital media abstinence, even just for short periods. Things like higher life satisfaction, increased mindfulness, and remarkably reduced stress levels.
So it's not just a feeling of being overwhelmed. There's a real, measurable neurological impact happening. And what about social media specifically, beyond just general digital consumption? Does that have unique effects?
Yes, it seems so. Excessive use of social media specifically has been directly linked in research to increased attentional impulsivity and a reduction in those very executive functions we just discussed. These are the cognitive skills absolutely needed to plan, organize, manage tasks effectively, regulate emotions, all essential for resilience, sustained effort, and deep thinking. The constant notifications, the endless scroll, the fragmented attention patterns, the comparison culture inherent in many platforms, it all conspires to hinder our ability to focus deeply, engage meaningfully, and develop that inner sense of calm and self-direction.
Wow. It sounds like we get caught in this really difficult loop where our environment is almost actively working against our natural tendencies.
It can feel that way sometimes.
And speaking of loops, what about routine? Many adults find themselves in incredibly rigid, repetitive routines day after day.
Indeed, many adults do find themselves trapped in rigid routines, often described quite aptly as feeling like a mouse on a wheel.
Yeah.
This monotonous, predictable existence, often devoid of novelty or real challenge, can lead to losing that innate joy of discovery and that clear sense of purpose that actively drives intrinsic motivation in children. When life becomes just a predictable series of tasks to get through with little opportunity for spontaneity or genuine curiosity, well, the vibrant curiosity and excitement that characterize childhood naturally begin to fade. They get replaced by a sense of obligation, or maybe even just drudgery.
Okay, so we've explored what childlike wonder is, and maybe more starkly, why we, as adults, tend to lose it. But the next really logical question is, why? Why is it so desperately important for us to actively work on rekindling these qualities? Is it just about feeling, happier, or does it go much deeper than that?
Oh, it absolutely goes deeper, far beyond just surface-level happiness, though that's certainly part of it. Reclaiming childlike wonder and resilience is really foundational for genuine well-being, for sustained mental health, and honestly for peak performance in adulthood. It's not about, reverting to immaturity or trying to escape reality. It's about accessing a more optimal, more human way of engaging with life, one that's naturally more sustainable and fulfilling. It's really about unlocking our innate potential that might have just become dormant over time.
Let's start with happiness and overall well-being then. How does actively trying to reignite this childlike approach actually affect our brain chemistry? Is there a biological link?
There really is. It creates a kind of virtuous cycle. Reclaiming childlike wonder by actively engaging curiosity, seeking novelty, embracing playfulness directly helps us stimulate our brain's natural happiness chemicals.
Okay, like dopamine again?
Yes, dopamine, which we discussed, giving us that sense of pleasure from discovery and achievement, but also serotonin, which contributes to feelings of stability, calm, contentment, oxytocin, which is released through social connection and bonding, fostering empathy and belonging, and endorphins, those natural pain relievers and mood boosters, often released from physical activity and laughter. By consciously engaging in activities that stimulate these pathways, we actively balance out the often dominant stress hormone, cortisol, which is frequently elevated in adult life due to chronic stress and worry. It's about creating a more harmonious, more resilient internal chemical environment.
And this has a direct impact on our mental health, I imagine, and maybe preventing that pervasive problem of burnout, especially in really demanding jobs.
Precisely. In today's high-pressure world, preventing burnout is absolutely critical. Implementing techniques like micro-recovery, which, interestingly, children do naturally by taking frequent, short, joyful breaks from focused play. And fostering emotional contagion, where a positive teacher's or leader's energy can be genuinely infectious. These things can significantly prevent mental and emotional exhaustion.
Emotional contagion, so positivity can spread.
It really can. And think about the concept of joyful compassion. This isn't just some catchy phrase. It means finding genuine joy and personal replenishment in the act of helping others, while also taking proactive steps to care for yourself.
Right, not burning out while caring.
Exactly. This is absolutely critical for sustaining empathy and effectiveness in demanding fields like medicine or teaching or social work. It prevents what's known as compassion fatigue and allows us to truly give from a full cup, not an empty one.
That concept of joyful compassion is really powerful. It reminds me of the idea of finding deeper meaning in what we do beyond just the task itself.
It connects directly to it. And this is where psychology really meets a profound human need. As Viktor Frankl's Logotherapy and Martin Seligman's positive psychology work powerfully highlight, finding deep meaning and purpose in our actions is a cornerstone of lasting well-being and resilience, especially during hardship. When our daily tasks, even the mundane ones, are imbued with a sense of purpose, when we understand why we are doing something beyond just the immediate reward or obligation, they become much more sustainable, more fulfilling, and more resistant to burnout. It shields us from that kind of existential dissatisfaction and gives our efforts a powerful inner drive.
Okay, so beyond personal well-being, how does this translate into boosting our productivity and our ability to innovate? Say, in our careers, our learning, or any complex pursuit we undertake?
The link is direct, profound, and often quite surprising. For instance, research suggests that when learning is imbued with positive emotions, things like genuine humor, boundless curiosity, or even a delightful sense of the absurd well, it can actually accelerate the learning process by up to 3 times compared to learning under rigid discipline, fear, or external pressure.
3 times faster. Wow.
Yeah, it's called joyful learning. When the brain is relaxed, positively engaged, experiencing delight, it's simply far more receptive, more adaptable, and more efficient at absorbing and retaining new information. It shifts learning from just rote memorization to genuine understanding and creative application.
So learning isn't just about discipline, it's also very much about enjoyment and playfulness.
Yeah. And what about that loss aversion we talked about earlier, that fear of losing what we have? How does a childlike approach help there? By consciously reframing perceived failures or setbacks, seeing them as just part of a larger game, maybe an experiment, or a temporary level-up challenge in life.
Like in a video game.
Exactly. Individuals become significantly more adventurous, more experimental, and ultimately more innovative. This mental shift directly leads to greater overall productivity because it liberates us from that paralysis by analysis, that fear of making a mistake. You see, leading companies actively designing playful work environments, open spaces, games, creative breaks, precisely because they understand this direct link. Psychological safety, happiness, risk-taking, and breakthrough innovation are all connected. When the fear of loss is reduced, the willingness to experiment and create truly novel solutions just skyrockets.
And for creative problem solving specifically, it sounds like intentionally setting aside those rigid adult assumptions is absolutely key.
Absolutely. This is where the childlike perspective truly shines. When we intentionally set aside our ingrained assumptions about how things should be or are for, those fixed definitions we've built up over years, we open our minds to a vastly wider array of possibilities.
Right, the box metaphor again.
Exactly. This childlike perspective, unburdened by preconceptions, by the way things have always been done, is a powerful catalyst for generating novel ideas and truly innovative solutions to complex problems. It allows us to see things not just for what they are, but for what they could be. It unlocks breakthroughs that rigid, fearful thinking simply cannot achieve.
And finally, a really big one, resilience and perseverance. How does rekindling these childlike qualities help build these essential traits that are so vital for any kind of long-term success or fulfillment?
So they're completely intertwined, as Angela Duckworth's groundbreaking research on grit powerfully demonstrates.
Oh yeah, grit.
Sustained passion and unwavering perseverance toward long-term goals are far more predictive of success than raw talent alone. This grit allows individuals to see setbacks not as definitive failures, but as temporary challenges that can be overcome. It's the ability to consistently push through, even when it's difficult or boring or disheartening, because the long-term vision remains compelling and that inner drive is strong. It's really the adult version of a child relentlessly trying to walk or master a new skill.
That sounds like it requires a lot of emotional control, though, especially when things get really tough or frustrating.
Indeed it does. Learning to act as if nothing bothers you, which sounds a bit stoic, but it's a profound psychological technique, involves mastering emotional regulation.
Okay.
It means consciously pausing before reacting impulsively, maintaining a calm demeanor, even under intense pressure, and deliberately reframing challenges as opportunities for growth rather than insurmountable obstacles.
Right.
Through consistent auto-suggestion, like repeatedly telling yourself positive, empowering affirmations, almost like programming your own mind, you can train your subconscious mind to remain composed. This gives you greater control over your emotions, your decisions, and ultimately, your future outcomes. It's an active way of shaping your own internal reality, not just being reactive.
And it really all comes back to the brain's fundamental design, doesn't it? Our brains themselves are actually built for this kind of ongoing adaptation.
Absolutely. The incredible neuroplasticity of the human brain means it has an inherent lifelong capacity to continually adapt, learn, and grow. This isn't just a childhood thing. It persists right into adulthood.
That's encouraging.
It really is.
Yeah.
This growth, however, is significantly enhanced when our minds are not constrained by negative self-narratives, by the fear of failure, or by those fixed beliefs about our capabilities. By consciously embracing a more childlike, open, curious mindset, we actively unlock our brain's natural ability to evolve, to overcome, and to thrive, regardless of our age. It's a powerful reminder that change isn't just possible, it's actually built into our very being.
Okay, so we've really explored the why we lose this wonder and why we desperately need it back. Now comes maybe the most important part, the actionable how-to. This is where we get into the concrete strategies you can actually implement in your own life. Let's start with mindset reframing and the incredible, often really underestimated power of language. Because the words we use, even just inside our own heads, they truly do matter.
Oh, profoundly. They shape our internal reality and by extension our external reality too. One of the most effective strategies is to consciously shift your internal dialogue. Move away from a victim mentality that, why is this happening to me, kind of thinking, towards an empowering, growth-oriented question. Okay, what can I learn from this experience? Every setback, every rejection, every difficulty, when reframed this way, can be viewed not as a personal attack or some sign of failure, but as valuable fuel for your growth, as a crucial lesson in disguise. This small shift in perspective can completely transform your emotional response to challenges.
So it's about actively choosing our perspective, choosing our narrative. And that ties right into positive self-talk and that idea of auto-suggestion you mentioned, essentially kind of programming our own minds.
Exactly. You need to recognize that the words you use, both internally in your thoughts and externally in your speech, profoundly shape your mental reality and your expectations about the future. So actively choose liberating language over limiting language.
Can you give an example?
Sure. For example, viewing a financial loss not as a big loss or a disaster, but maybe reframing it as learning an expensive lesson. It acknowledges the cost, but frames it as learning, as forward motion.
Okay, got it.
Then, practice auto-suggestion. By repeatedly affirming positive statements about your composure, your capabilities, your control over your reactions. Things like, I remain calm under pressure, or I learn from every challenge. Over time, this consistent internal messaging will seep into and influence your subconscious mind, gradually building a new, more resilient, more optimistic default setting for how you perceive challenges and yourself.
This reminds me of that technique called resistance framing, where you intentionally reframe tasks that feel overwhelming or just plain tedious to make them more engaging.
That's a really powerful cognitive technique, yes. When you're faced with overwhelming or monotonous tasks, intentionally reframe your perception of them. Try to spark curiosity and engagement.
Like how?
For example, instead of seeing monotonous data entry or boring analysis, maybe consider it decoding the system of human thought if you're working with text, or a detective mission to uncover hidden patterns if you're looking at numbers.
Okay, making it a game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This kind of imaginative reframing can reignite a sense of wonder and engagement. It makes the task feel less like a chore and more like an exciting puzzle to solve. It transforms drudgery into discovery.
And for anyone in, say, academic or professional settings, especially maybe creatives, revisions, and feedback can often feel like negative criticism, like a personal attack on your work. How do we reframe that based on what the sources suggest?
That's a very common challenge, absolutely. In academic or professional settings, instead of perceiving revisions as negative criticism or someone cutting your work,
Right.
actively reframe them as negotiated meaning or co-construction of knowledge.
Yeah.
Think of it as a collaborative process, like getting an update to create a cooler version of your work rather than seeing it as demolition of the original.
Negotiated meaning, co-construction. I like those.
Yeah, this shift transforms a potentially disheartening process into a collaborative effort to improve and refine. Much like a child might happily build on another's idea during creative play, making the end product even better together.
That's a fantastic way to look at it. A true upgrade, not a downgrade. And what about embracing ambiguity and complexity, especially in fields where there often aren't clear-cut answers or where things are just constantly changing?
Right. In fields like qualitative research or dynamic disciplines like economics, where definitive Static answers are rare,
Yeah.
and the dynamics are constantly shifting. You have to learn to intentionally embrace ambiguity. Adopt an explorative inquiry mindset. Try to enjoy the process of data discovery, much like a biologist discovering a new species. You don't know exactly what you'll find, and that's the exciting part.
Okay.
Or view economic fluctuations not as problems to be feared and fixed immediately, but as part of a dynamic equilibrium, maybe like a roller coaster to enjoy,
Okay.
understanding that the ups and downs are just part of the ride, inherent to the system. This mindset makes uncertainty an exciting part of the journey, rather than just a source of anxiety.
Okay, that covers some really powerful mindset shifts and using language differently. Now let's talk about tangible behavioral practices and actual skill development. What can we actually do in our daily lives to cultivate this?
A profoundly powerful behavioral practice, and one that's often overlooked, is to consciously seek out and celebrate even the smallest steps forward. We call this celebrating micro-progress.
Micro-progress. Okay.
This seemingly small act triggers a release of dopamine in your brain, providing a powerful, immediate boost to motivation. It reinforces positive behavior even when you're facing significant long-term challenges. It trains your brain to associate effort with reward, no matter how incremental, creating a positive feedback loop that helps sustain effort over time.
And to avoid that dreaded burnout, especially with intense work or study, you mentioned micro-recovery earlier. How exactly does that work in practice?
This is really critical for sustained performance and well-being. Integrate short, deliberate breaks into your intense work or study sessions. It doesn't have to be long. Even just 5 minutes of stretching, walking away from your screen, or maybe 10 minutes of light laughter and conversation can significantly help manage your dopamine levels, refresh your brain, and improve overall focus. This mirrors children's natural learning patterns. Short bursts of intense focus followed by periods of playful disengagement. It's about thinking in sprints, then recovering, rather than trying to push through one long, exhausting, unsustainable marathon.
Sprint and recover, not marathon.
Got it.
Hmm.
And when it comes to errors or mistakes, we really need to shift our perspective entirely from seeing them as personal failures, right?
Absolutely. See errors not as failures, but as crucial metrics of progress. The more systematically you analyze and learn from your mistakes, the faster your skills will develop and the deeper your understanding will become.
Even in fields demanding extreme precision, like maybe engineering, the process itself can be transformed into a high form of play. Think about meticulously assembling complex Lego structures. The satisfaction comes from the precise process, the immediate feedback of pieces fitting or not fitting, not just waiting for the finished product. This builds error tolerance, that capacity to learn from mistakes without being completely derailed by them emotionally.
I really love that idea of precision as a form of play. What about intentionally stepping outside our comfort zone, even if it's just in small, maybe slightly uncomfortable ways?
This is a practice we call proactive discomfort. Intentionally put yourself in situations that cause slight, manageable discomfort.
Like
Maybe politely negotiating a price in a local market where it's appropriate, or asking a stranger for directions even when you have GPS on your phone. The goal isn't necessarily the outcome getting the discount or the directions. It's about building mental resilience, expanding your comfort zone, overcoming that pervasive fear of rejection or discomfort itself. Each small act of courage builds your capacity to face larger, more daunting challenges with greater ease and confidence later on.
Okay, building the muscle. And it's important, you mentioned earlier, to set realistic goals, right? Not overly ambitious ones like Emily's initial list that can just lead to quick frustration and giving up.
Precisely. Avoid setting overly ambitious perfectionist goals that are highly likely to lead to quick frustration and the urge to just abandon the whole thing. Instead, establish more logical, achievable goals and prioritize consistent, even minimal effort.
Consistency over intensity.
Exactly. Perseverance and continuity, even in small, manageable amounts, are far more effective for long-term success and habit formation than sporadic, intense bursts of effort that quickly lead to burnout and abandonment. Small, consistent steps build momentum and lasting change.
And crucially, we shouldn't try to do all of this alone, should we?
Not at all. That's often a recipe for struggle. Actively solicit guidance and constructive feedback from mentors or trusted individuals who have diverse life experiences and maybe a bit of wisdom. This can provide invaluable insights into concepts like patience, sincerity, maintaining core principles, especially when things get tough. It helps you navigate life's complexities with greater wisdom, perspective, and crucially, emotional support. Learning from others' journeys is often a shortcut to your own growth.
This brings us to a really fascinating, holistic approach to self-development and well-being, drawn from Islamic psychology. It offers a really deep framework for cultivating intrinsic motivation and living a balanced, resilient life.
It does. And it aligns beautifully with many modern psychological theories, which is interesting. It often starts with the understanding of innate human nature, or fitra in Arabic.
Okay.
This core concept posits that every individual is born with an innate state of purity, a natural inclination towards learning, growth, goodness, and truth. And it's accompanied by an inherent positive drive. It's like a default setting for positive development and a deep yearning for meaning.
And then there's a concept called tarbiyah.
Yes, tarbiyah.
Yeah.
It refers to a comprehensive, holistic approach to self-development. It emphasizes cultivating intellect, character, spiritual nourishment, and emotional strength for balanced growth across all dimensions of life.
So mind, body, spirit, emotions, everything.
Exactly. Scholars like the famous Al-Ghazali emphasize this holistic nurturing, recognizing that true well-being comes from developing every aspect of the self, not just the intellectual or the professional. It's about raising yourself intellectually, spiritually, emotionally in a balanced way, much like a gardener carefully nurtures a plant to ensure it thrives.
This sounds remarkably similar to the core psychological needs for intrinsic motivation identified in Western psychology's self-determination theory: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Are there parallels?
The parallels are striking, yes. In Islamic psychology, these needs are deeply embedded within the framework. Autonomy, for instance, is often linked to the concept of taklif, which cultivates a strong sense of personal responsibility for your actions, fostering ownership and accountability for your choices and efforts.
Okay.
Competence is developed by continuously striving for excellence, for ihsan, in all your endeavors, whether personal pursuits, academic work, or professional tasks. It's about doing things well.
Right.
And relatedness is actively built through strong social connections, community ties, and a sense of belonging. Ukhuwah, understanding the importance of mutual support, empathy, and collective growth for both individual and societal well-being.
And that sense of overarching purpose, which we talked about being so important earlier, seems absolutely central here too.
Yes. Purpose and intention, or ikhlas, is vital. It's about clarifying your life's overarching purpose, beyond just material gain or social status. By purifying your intentions, ensuring sincerity and integrity in your actions, making sure you are doing something for a higher, meaningful reason. Even mundane tasks like studying or daily work can be elevated.
How so?
They can become acts of devotion, acts imbued with deep meaning. This provides incredible intrinsic motivation and protects against burnout because your energy is fueled by something far greater and more enduring than temporary rewards or external validation.
What about that concept of persistence, like grit, but maybe from this more spiritual perspective?
That's patient perseverance, or saber. It's a profound practice. It involves active endurance, steadfastness, and a kind of beautiful patience in the face of difficulties and adversity.
So it's not just gritting your teeth.
No, it's deeper. While it's akin to grit in Western psychology, saber also emphasizes inner calm and trust alongside the effort. It encourages you to consistently push forward despite setbacks, viewing them not as roadblocks, but as temporary surmountable challenges, or even as opportunities for spiritual and personal elevation. It's about enduring with dignity, wisdom, and that clear sense of purpose.
And fighting that erosion of self-belief that often happens with negative experiences and repeated setbacks. How does this framework address that?
That's where positive thinking, or Husn al-Dhan, comes in. It's about developing a habit of optimism and holding good expectations about your own potential, about your circumstances, even about others and God. This mindset can powerfully counteract the erosion of self-belief that often comes from negative experiences or societal judgment. It helps you reframe adversity as a means for personal elevation, rather than just a reason to give up. It's about consciously choosing to have good thoughts.
And how about managing that constant modern desire for more? That feeling of not having enough, which seems to cause so much anxiety and dissatisfaction for people today.
That is addressed directly by the concept of contentment, or kana. It's about cultivating gratitude for what you already have and practicing being genuinely content with your present circumstances without constantly chasing external validation or more material possessions.
Right, getting off the hedonic treadmill.
Exactly. This helps to neutralize the toxic effects of social comparison, that endless scroll on social media telling you you're not enough. It can significantly reduce depressive symptoms, boost overall mental well-being, and free up precious mental energy for more meaningful pursuits.
And finally, there's a concept that sounds like it could bring a deep sense of calm amidst the chaos, especially in a world that often feels so unpredictable and out of our control.
That's reliance on a higher power, or tawakkul. The idea is this. After exerting your very best personal effort, after doing everything that is reasonably within your power, you learn to trust in a higher power for the ultimate outcomes. This spiritual trust can profoundly reduce anxiety and stress. It works by shifting your focus away from uncontrollable results, which, let's face it, are often beyond our complete control anyway,
True.
towards the things you can control. Your actions, your efforts, your intentions. It's somewhat akin to having a strong internal locus of control, but with an added dimension of peaceful acceptance and release. You do your part, and then you trust.
And integrating all of these profound principles into daily life, how is that practically achieved?
A balanced daily routine is strongly emphasized as a practical foundation. Incorporating structured daily routines that include things like early waking, physical activity, periods of quiet reflection or meditation, and dedicated time for focused work and adequate rest. Such routines are scientifically proven, even outside this specific framework, to enhance mental health, productivity, and overall motivation. They provide a stable, predictable foundation upon which all these other principles can more easily flourish. It creates a kind of container for growth.
Speaking of routines, let's circle back to our very modern routines, specifically around digital consumption. What about the idea of a digital detox, or at least a digital diet, as a key strategy for reclaiming focus and wonder?
This is a crucial, almost revolutionary strategy for reclaiming your mind in today's world. Reconsider how you view time spent on digital platforms. Don't just see it as free entertainment or connection. Think of it, perhaps starkly, as a form of employment.
Employment, how so?
You're employed by the platform owners, and you are effectively paying with your most valuable assets: your attention, your time, your creative, intellectual, and cognitive autonomy.
Wow, that's a perspective shift.
And be acutely aware of potential surveillance capitalism, how your data, your attention, even your emotional responses might be tracked and used in ways you don't foresee or consent to. Recognizing these hidden, often unacknowledged costs can be a powerful motivator for change. It could prompt you to actively reclaim your time and focus.
That's a stark, almost unsettling, but incredibly powerful way to put it. Employment by the platform. And what about boredom? It seems like we've almost lost the ability, or maybe the tolerance, to just be bored for a moment. We rush to fill every gap.
Boredom, far from being a void to be immediately filled with digital noise, boredom is actually a critical gateway to creativity and deep thought.
Really?
Embrace sitting with that discomfort, the quiet stillness that often precedes innovation. This discomfort pushes you beyond those easy, superficial digital dopamine hits towards harder things. Acts of genuine creation like art, meaningful writing, building deeper relationships, or engaging in profound, sustained thought. It forces your brain to generate its own stimulation, to connect disparate ideas, leading to genuine innovation and a much deeper, more fulfilling engagement with life. Don't fear the quiet.
So if we step away from the screens more often, what do we replace them with to foster this more childlike, engaged state?
Experiment with replacing smartphone functions with physical, analog objects. Maybe a simple flip phone for essential communication, freeing your pocket from the constant internet portal.
Okay.
A physical journal for your thoughts, maybe even sticking in photos instead of posting them. A dedicated digital camera for capturing moments without the immediate urge to share or get distracted by notifications. And actual physical books you can hold, underline, feel. This shift can lead to a more focused and engaged experience. It can significantly improve your attention span, enhance information retention, and create a more analog, present, and sensory-rich reality, much like a child exploring the tangible world around them, not just a screen.
And finally, a more balanced approach to our hobbies and how we spend our leisure time beyond just passive consumption.
Yes, adopt a balanced approach to your activities. Ensure you have hobbies that encompass 4 key areas. Consuming meaningful media that enriches you, like deep documentaries, great books, art. Creating something yourself, art, writing, music, gardening, coding. Covering through physical movement and exercise. And communing by actively building social connections and genuine intimacy, face-to-face ideally. Consume, create, cover, commune. I like that.
This holistic approach helps prevent excessive passive digital consumption, which often drains us rather than restores us. And it actively promotes overall well-being, fostering a richer, more engaged, and deeply satisfying life.
Now that we've really dug into the core concepts and all those practical strategies for reclaiming our childlike wonder, let's try to bring it all to life with some truly illuminating examples. Because sometimes, seeing how these profound principles actually play out in real situations makes them truly click. It shows their practical power. Let's start with a beautiful, really simple metaphor. The box. Ah, yes, the box. This is Zach King's brilliant illustration of how children perceive the world so differently from many adults. It's a fundamental lesson in shifting perspective. Just observe how children look at a simple cardboard box. What do they see?
Anything, a spaceship.
A spaceship, a car.
Exactly. It transforms effortlessly into a rocket ship launching into space, a submarine exploring the ocean depths, a magnificent castle protecting a kingdom. This highlights their innate ability to perceive beyond obvious fixed functions, to inject boundless imagination into the most mundane object.
But for us adults, that same cardboard object is often, sadly, just a box. We see its literal function holding things and maybe nothing more.
Precisely. We tend to simply label it, categorize it, losing all that rich imaginative potential that exists beyond its immediate utility. Zach King's personal story illustrates this perfectly. As a boy, he played endlessly with a box. It was a cave, a time machine, a bunker.
But as an adult, he put it away in storage. He saw it only as a container for old items. He forgot its magic. He only rediscovered its profound imaginative power when his own children started playing with it, pulling it out, transforming it. That reignited his own sense of wonder and reminded him of his innate capacity for seeing beyond the obvious.
So the core lesson here, really, beyond just the example of a cardboard box, is truly about how we choose to perceive reality around us.
It is. The fundamental insight is that by intentionally removing our ingrained assumptions about what things should be or what they are for, those fixed mental labels we have accumulated over years, we unlock vast new possibilities. We foster genuine innovation. We reignite that childlike curiosity.
Right.
Zach King goes on to give more fascinating examples from his own work as a digital magician, seeing a pool table, not just as a game surface, but as a different kind of pool where you could actually swim. Transforming a soccer ball into a playful Dalmatian puppy with just a clever trick of perspective. Or even seeing a half-empty glass, not as a deficit, something lacking, but as a tasty piece of chocolate cake waiting to be enjoyed. It's about retraining our minds to see potential, humor, and wonder where we once saw only limits, deficiencies, or fixed, boring definitions.
These concepts aren't just for abstract creativity or, reframing everyday objects. They apply to really practical challenges too, especially in demanding fields like education and medicine, where overwhelm and burnout are just rampant. Let's look at some examples from the sources about overcoming those feelings.
Absolutely. These are really practical. Take the case of Laris, a math education student. She struggled deeply with monotonous drilling exercises that just left her feeling bored and completely unmotivated.
Okay, yeah, drills can be tough.
The solution offered was gamification, making practice feel like an engaging game by adding elements like points, visualizing progress, maybe some friendly competition, celebrating small rewards along the way to make those repetitive tasks more enjoyable. This transformed a chore into a challenge, much like how a child learns naturally through play.
And what about Iko, an Indonesian language education student? He faced a really frustrating lack of enthusiasm from his students during his teaching practice. How was his approach reframed?
The advice for Eco highlighted the power of emotional contagion. That core idea that a happy, enthusiastic teacher's energy is genuinely infectious.
Right, it rubs off.
Exactly. So incorporating humor, using engaging storytelling, even bringing in absurd or unexpected elements like characters from SpongeBob, apparently made learning feel more alive and engaging. When the teacher genuinely enjoys the process and brings that positive energy, the students are far more likely to mirror that enthusiasm. It creates a vibrant learning environment, not a dull one.
For Intan, a pre-clinical medicine student, the challenge was different. It was those intense, non-stop study blocks leading to complete mental burnout. How could she integrate a more childlike, maybe more sustainable approach?
The strategy recommended for her was micro-recovery, taking short, deliberate breaks. Even just 5 minutes for stretching, or 10 minutes for some light laughter, or a quick, joyful walk outside during those long, intense study sessions.
Okay.
This helps manage dopamine levels, prevents mental fatigue, keeps the brain fresh. It really mirrors children's natural learning patterns, those short bursts of focused attention, followed by periods of playful disengagement. It makes long periods of demanding work sustainable.
Risky, a clinical medicine student, felt like he was becoming a medical robot during his clinical rotations, just going through motions, losing the human connection.
For risky, the concept of mindful interaction was suggested. Taking just 10 seconds, that's all, to make genuine eye contact with a patient, to acknowledge their humanity instead of solely focusing on monitors or charts.
Just 10 seconds.
This simple act can rekindle empathy, that sense of human connection. It activates oxytocin, the social bonding hormone, making the demanding work feel more human, more meaningful, and less like a cold, detached process.
And for Sarah, a final year medical student who was deeply concerned about experiencing compassion fatigue, getting worn out by caring in such a demanding, emotionally draining field, what was the advice there?
The solution offered was joyful compassion, finding intentional ways to recharge and find small joys, even while giving care.
Okay.
This included practical strategies like engaging in small group reflections with peers, sharing funny stories from their day, appropriately of course, or actively celebrating small patient successes together. These small pleasures and moments of shared humanity are absolutely critical to preventing chronic emotional exhaustion and sustaining empathy in an incredibly demanding profession.
It's really clear how these playful, compassionate, mindful approaches can truly transform overwhelming situations in professional settings. And it applies just as powerfully to academic challenges too, doesn't it? Let's look at Dina, a linguistics student, who felt completely overwhelmed by what she perceived as monotonous corpus analysis, just wading through data.
Right. For Dina, the advice was resistance framing, intentionally reframing that tedious task. Instead of seeing it as monotonous analysis, she was encouraged to view it as decoding the system of human thought, or maybe a detective mission for hidden language patterns, something to spark her innate curiosity. This mental shift can transform drudgery into an exciting intellectual puzzle.
Guy Lang, also a linguistics student, struggled deeply with revisions from his lecturers. He often saw them as harsh criticism, maybe even personal attacks.
He was encouraged to see revisions not as negative criticism or someone cutting his work down, but as negotiated meaning or co-construction of knowledge.
Those phrases again.
Yeah. Like getting a software update that makes the work a cooler version, rather than seeing the original as flawed. This fosters a collaborative mindset, not a confrontational one. It turns feedback into a positive developmental process, not something to dread.
Nadia, an applied linguistics student, found qualitative research incredibly exhausting, mostly because of the inherent lack of absolute definitive answers you often find in that kind of work.
The suggestion for her was to embrace explorative inquiry, to try and enjoy each encounter with data like meeting a new species. Recognizing that ambiguity isn't a flaw in the method or in her, it's often a sign that language, or whatever she's studying, is alive, dynamic, complex, constantly evolving. It's about enjoying the journey of discovery, rather than fixating on a perfect, final, and often elusive single answer.
Rafi, a development economics student, was getting really frustrated by constantly evolving economic theories and the unpredictable nature of markets. Things kept changing.
He was advised to try and apply the concept of dynamic equilibrium, seeing economic changes not as problems or signs of instability to be feared, but as a natural part of a dynamic system, and maybe even trying to enjoy the up and down like a roller coaster ride.
Okay, embrace the chaos a bit.
Kind of.
Yeah.
This shifts the mindset from desperately seeking static stability, which might be impossible, to gracefully embracing flux and change as inherent to the system he's studying.
Vivi, an Islamic economics student, faced moral dilemmas and ethical gray areas in market simulations, which caused her a lot of internal conflict and stress.
The advice there was to intentionally separate the simulation from reality, to treat it as an experiment or a role play without internalizing the simulated outcomes as personal failures or real moral compromises.
Right, to simulate.
This allowed for bold, experimental decision-making within that learning environment, without the burden of guilt or the fear of real-world consequences, much like a child role-playing different scenarios to understand them better.
For Bogus, a mechanical engineering student, frequent failures in lab projects were a constant source of frustration and self-doubt. Things kept breaking or not working.
He was encouraged to embrace a fail fast, learn fast philosophy, to view errors not as failures, but as crucial metrics of progress that actively build error tolerance. The more systematically he analyzed and learned from his mistakes, the faster his skills would develop. It transformed setbacks into powerful learning opportunities, not dead ends.
And Irwin, also in mechanical engineering, found the relentless demand for extreme precision incredibly stressful, always having to be perfect.
The perspective offered to him was that precision, rather than being solely a source of stress, can actually be a highest form of play, much like building intricate Lego models.
Ah, the Lego analogy again.
Yeah, the satisfaction comes from meticulously assembling small parts, achieving that perfect fit and function, rather than just waiting impatiently for the finished product. This transforms a stressful requirement into a focused, almost meditative, and deeply satisfying creative process.
These adaptive mindsets are echoed really powerfully in the world of business and personal resilience, too. Bram, a successful business practitioner mentioned in the sources, shares some really compelling anecdotes from his own journey using these ideas.
He does. He talks about transforming his hatred for calculations, which felt like a total chore, into a personal game to simply beat his own record in speed and accuracy. That made a tedious task engaging, even fun for him. He revitalized a lethargic youth team he was leading, not by cracking the whip, but by openly sharing his own funny failures, injecting positive energy and creating psychological safety through shared vulnerability. It made it okay for others to stumble too.
He also applied that micro-recovery concept directly to his professional work, didn't he?
He implemented a strict 50 minutes work, 10 minutes break system for himself, finding it made his brain fresher, more focused, and ultimately made his work faster and more efficient in the long run. He also realized that genuinely helping his team grow and develop was actually far more fulfilling for him than just focusing on making money, shifting his purpose from purely financial to one of genuine mentorship and contribution. And he learned to deliberately reframe business losses, not as big losses or disasters, but as expensive learning opportunities that significantly reduced the emotional weight and allowed for faster recovery and adaptation.
And he even consciously changed his social circle to support this new, more resilient mindset. That seems quite radical.
It's a powerful, often overlooked strategy. He intentionally changed his social circle to spend more time around street business people, those who had built businesses from the ground up, often through trial and error, people who encouraged a mindset of, try it. If you fail, dust yourself off and do it again.
Right.
Instead of those who constantly warned of bankruptcy and focused only on the risks, he actively practices a mental shift now to view life as a playground, not a police station, and business as a game where losses are just part of leveling up, part of gaining experience.
Playground, not police station. I like that.
He intentionally performs small, uncomfortable actions sometimes, like bargaining vigorously in a market where it's expected, specifically to strengthen his mental resilience against the fear of rejection or discomfort. And crucially, he advocates for what he calls selfish recharge, emphasizing that you absolutely must replenish yourself and prioritize your own well-being to effectively help others in a sustainable way.
These are such tangible, real-world applications of these principles. They really show how impactful they can be across different areas of life. And we can't forget the incredible story of Dr. Francis Oldham Kelsey, a Canadian pharmacologist, which truly embodies unwavering perseverance against huge odds.
Dr. Kelsey, yes. Working at the U.S. FDA back in the 1960s, she demonstrated incredible determination and integrity. She fought relentlessly against the widespread approval and use of the drug thalidomide in the United States, despite being called arrogant and stubborn by powerful pharmaceutical companies, maybe even some of her own colleagues. Her unwavering conviction and her meticulous scientific scrutiny saved thousands, literally thousands, of American lives from severe birth deformities.
Wow.
This story powerfully demonstrates the immense, life-saving impact of perseverance, integrity, and conviction, even when facing significant professional and personal opposition. She acted with a kind of single-minded focus and determination we often admire in children focused on a task, but combined it with profound adult responsibility and scientific rigor.
And from a spiritual perspective, the teachings of Prophet Muhammad also offer timeless wisdom on the power of consistent perseverance in building resilience through life's inevitable challenges.
Absolutely. His teaching that the most pleasing deeds in the sight of God are those done continuously, even if they are small, emphasizes the profound power of consistent, patient effort over sporadic, grand bursts of energy that fizzle out.
Small, steady steps.
Exactly. His own life provides countless practical examples of cultivating resilience. He consistently encouraged his companions during times of hardship, reminding them of eventual success, and normalizing struggle as a necessary path to spiritual and personal elevation. It's about understanding that challenges and difficulties are not deviations from the path, but inherent parts of the journey itself.
Finally, let's consider Damar, a middle school student mentioned in the sources. He expressed deep frustration with a stagnant school environment that simply didn't foster or challenge his advanced cognitive abilities. He felt really stifled and bored.
Damar's feelings were profoundly validated through the concept of asynchronous development, acknowledging that his cognitive abilities were indeed developing much faster than perhaps his social setting or the standard educational environment could keep up with. He was advised not to despair, but to view his current situation as a long game for future global impact. Strategies offered included that resistance framing, again seeing his time in school not as wasted hours, but perhaps as gathering observation hours for a system he will eventually help change.
Interesting perspective.
He was encouraged to actively build a life project outside of school, maybe starting a blog, an online channel, learning coding where he could truly explore his passions and be challenged. And, crucially, he was advised to create a safe space for self-directed learning and growth outside of the formal structures, empowering him to thrive and continue learning even when his immediate environment wasn't fully supportive. This example really shows that even in limiting circumstances, that childlike drive for exploration can be sustained and nurtured with the right mindset and strategies. #tag outro.
Wow, what an incredibly insightful and really practical journey through this profound concept of reclaiming our childlike wonder, from understanding the neurological underpinnings of curiosity and resilience in children, to dissecting why we tend to lose it as adults, and then arming ourselves with this comprehensive suite of practical strategies and those truly illuminating real-world examples. One central theme really stands out to me.
Right, sorry.
That challenges are just an inescapable inherent part of life. But our mental attitude, our perspective, and the active choices we make, they determine whether those challenges become an overwhelming, crushing burden or an exciting, transformative playground for growth.
Absolutely. And the most empowering insight, I think, is this. The human brain's incredible neuroplasticity means it can always adapt, learn, and grow throughout our entire lives, regardless of our age.
Right, it's never too late.
Never. This profound capacity for evolution is always present, provided we don't lock it down with negative self-narratives, with the fear of failure, or with those rigid, fixed beliefs about our capabilities. We are constantly capable of evolving our mindset and rekindling that innate spark.
So this deep dive has really shown us that reclaiming childlike qualities, that boundless curiosity, that innate playfulness, that unwavering perseverance, and that non-judgmental view of failure, it isn't about regressing to some kind of immaturity or naivety. Not at all.
Not in the slightest.
It's about tapping into a pure, more effective, and ultimately a more joyful and sustainable state of being. It's about remembering how we were intrinsically built to engage with the world, with all its challenges and all its wonders. It feels like coming home to ourselves, in a way.
And this journey, this profound transformation, it really is within everyone's reach. It's a conscious choice. It's an active practice to re-engage with that innate drive for growth and discovery we all possessed at the very beginning of our lives. It's a choice to live differently, to approach challenges with a fresh perspective, with open eyes.
And with that, we want to leave you, our listener, with one powerful thought to perhaps ponder and integrate into your own life as you move forward from this deep dive.
Children fall and rise, laugh and run again. Adults often fall, and then fear to take the next step. The profound choice is ours, to live paralyzed by the fear of loss, or to live vibrantly, courageously, and joyfully like an explorer.
We deeply encourage you to reflect on your own life, to identify those areas where maybe you feel you might have lost some of that spark, and to experiment. Experiment with the myriad strategies we discussed today to rediscover your own unique sense of childlike wonder and resilience. Thank you so much for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Thank you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and maybe most importantly, keep playing.